This changes everything.
My hands are shaking so bad, I can barely hold the zipper. $5 million.
Cash.
Stacked in neat bundles inside this black duffel bag I just pulled from a dumpster behind the Gas and Go on Fletcher Street. And somewhere in the distance, maybe 3 blocks away, police sirens are getting louder. I'm 6 months pregnant. Homeless for exactly 4 days. And I'm standing in an alley at 2 in the morning with enough money to change my life or ruin what's left of it. The baby kicks hard against my ribs like she knows something's wrong. Or maybe she knows something's right. I don't even know anymore. Do I run? Do I turn it in? Do I call someone? Who would I even call? The husband who chose his mother over me? The in-laws who literally threw my clothes into the street and called me trash? The friends who all picked a side because his family has money and connections? The sirens are closer now. My heart's hammering so hard I taste copper in my mouth. I look down at my belly, then back at the bag. This money could mean a roof over our heads.
Food.
Medical care. A future. But it could also mean prison. It could mean losing my baby before I even get to hold her. The red and blue lights start bouncing off the brick walls at the end of the alley. I have maybe 10 seconds to decide who I'm going to be. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. 3 weeks ago, I didn't even know what a dumpster smelled like up close. 3 weeks ago, I was Cordelia Banks, married to Griffin Banks, living in his family's guest house in Richmond Heights, planning a nursery with pale yellow walls and waiting for my first baby to arrive. 3 weeks ago, I still believed in love. Now I'm crouching behind a dumpster, pregnant and alone, holding stolen money or found money, I don't even know which, and trying to remember the exact moment my life became unrecognizable. Was it when Griffin's mother, Willa, first told me I wasn't good enough for her son? Was it when I caught those text messages on his phone? Or was it 4 nights ago when they changed the locks and told me to never come back? The police car rolls past the alley entrance. Slow. Searching. I press myself against a cold brick wall, the duffel bag clutched to my chest, and I hold my breath until my lungs burn. The baby shifts inside me, and I put my hand on my belly, silently begging her to stay still. Stay quiet. Stay safe. The cruiser keeps going. But I know they'll circle back. They always do. And I still haven't answered the only question that matters. What kind of person am I going to be when this night is over? 22 days earlier, I was standing in that same guest house kitchen, holding a pregnancy test with 2 pink lines, crying happy tears, and calling Griffin at work to tell him we were going to be parents. He said all the right things. He said he loved me. He said he couldn't wait. He said we'd tell his parents together at Sunday dinner. I believed every word. Griffin was good at words.
Smooth. Polished.
He worked at his father's investment firm and wore expensive suits and knew how to make you feel like you were the only person in the world when he looked at you. That's how he got me. I was working at the coffee shop near his office, barely making rent, dreaming about finishing my associate's degree someday. He came in every morning for 3 weeks straight, ordering the same thing, large black coffee, no sugar, and leaving $5 tips. Then one day, he asked my name. Then he asked my number. 6 months later, we were married at City Hall because he said he couldn't wait another day to call me his wife. His parents didn't come to the wedding. That should have been my first clue. Willa Banks made it very clear from the beginning that I was beneath her son. I didn't come from the right family. I didn't have the right education. I didn't have the right anything. But Griffin promised it would get better. He promised she'd warm up to me eventually. He promised his love was enough. For a while, I believed that too. Sunday dinner at the main house was always tense, but that night, the night we were supposed to announce the pregnancy, something felt different. Willa kept staring at me across the table with this cold, knowing smile. Griffin's father, Porter, barely looked up from his phone. And Griffin, my husband, the man who'd promised to protect me, wouldn't meet my eyes. We have some news, Griffin finally said, halfway through the roast chicken that I could barely choke down. Willa set down her wine glass slowly. Oh, do tell. Cordelia's pregnant. We're having a baby. The silence that followed felt like falling through ice. Then Willa laughed. Actually laughed. Is that so? Porter finally looked up. His expression made my blood run cold. How far along? Willa asked, but she wasn't asking me. She was asking Griffin. 6 weeks, he mumbled. Interesting. Willa stood up, smoothing her skirt. Because 6 weeks ago, you were in Atlanta for the Henderson merger. You were gone for 11 days. My stomach dropped. I looked at Griffin. What is she talking about?
He wouldn't look at me.
He just sat there, staring at his plate like a coward. Do the math, sweetheart, Willa said, her voice dripping with poison. Either that baby isn't his or my son is a liar about where he was. Which do you think it is? That's when I knew my marriage was already over. I just didn't know how much worse it was about to get. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. Griffin, tell her. Tell her you were in Atlanta. Tell her this is your baby. He finally looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw something that broke me worse than any words could. Relief. Relief that his mother had given him an out. I don't know, Cordelia, he said quietly. I mean, we should probably do a paternity test. Just to be sure. The room started spinning. Are you serious right now? You're my husband. You're the only man I've ever. Let's not make a scene, Porter interrupted, like I was the problem. Like I was the one tearing our family apart. She trapped you, Griffin, Willa said, walking around the table toward me. Girls like her always do. They find a man with prospects and they get pregnant on purpose. It's the oldest trick in the book. I didn't trap anyone.
We're married.
We're in love. Love. Willa laughed again. That cruel, hollow sound. You think my son loves you? Sweetheart, you were a phase. A rebellion. A way for him to feel like he was his own man before he settled down with someone appropriate. I looked at Griffin, begging him to defend me, to stand up for us, to remember the vows he made. He looked away.
Get out, Willa said.
Excuse me? You heard me. Get your things from the guest house and get out. Tonight. You can't kick me out. I live here. I'm Griffin's wife. Porter pulled out his phone, tapping something on the screen. Actually, according to property records, my wife owns that guest house. You're living there at our discretion. And our discretion just ran out. My legs felt like water. Griffin, say something. Please. He finally spoke, but not to defend me. Not to fight for our marriage. Not to protect his child. Maybe it's for the best, Delia. Just for now. Until we figure things out. Figure things out. Like I was a problem to be solved. Like our baby was a complication to be managed. I have nowhere to go, I whispered. Not my problem, Willa said. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Security? We need someone removed from the property. Guest house.
Yes.
No, she won't need help packing. She can come back for her things tomorrow. Under supervision. I looked at Griffin one last time. Is this really what you want? He didn't answer. He just sat there, letting his parents destroy me and said nothing. 2 security guards I'd never seen before appeared in the doorway. Large men with blank faces who'd been told I was a problem. Ma'am, we need you to come with us. I'm 6 weeks pregnant. You're throwing a pregnant woman out on the street. Should have thought about that before you tried to trap my son, Willa said. They escorted me out, not to the guest house to get my things. Straight to the front gate. One of them handed me my purse, just my purse, nothing else, and they pushed me through the gate and locked it behind me. I stood there on the sidewalk in the dark, in the dress I'd worn to Sunday dinner, with $17 in my wallet and a baby growing inside me, and I realized I'd just lost everything in less than an hour. But I didn't know yet that the worst was still coming. The first night, I slept in my car. Except I didn't really sleep. I just sat in the driver's seat in a Walmart parking lot, watching people come and go, wondering how I'd become one of those people who live in their cars. My phone kept buzzing. Text messages from Griffin's mother's lawyer. Apparently, I needed to sign papers. Apparently, the marriage was being annulled. Apparently, Griffin was claiming fraud and coercion. I didn't answer. I just watched my battery drain to 15% and realized I couldn't charge it because I'd need gas money, and I only had $17. $17. That's what my life was worth now. The baby. I'd started calling her Hope in my head, though I hadn't told anyone, kicked for the first time that night. Tiny little flutter like butterfly wings against my insides. And I put my hand on my belly, and I cried until I couldn't breathe. I'm sorry, I whispered to her. I'm so sorry you got stuck with me. By day 2, I knew I needed help. I called my sister, Paige. It went straight to voicemail. I called my old roommate, Tess. Same thing. I called the one cousin I still talk to. He texted back, sorry, heard about the divorce.
Can't get involved.
Family's complicated. Griffin's family had already gotten to everyone. Already told their version of the story. Already made sure I had nowhere to turn. I drove to the coffee shop where I used to work, thinking maybe my old manager would give me shifts. But there was a new girl behind the counter, and when I asked for the manager, she looked at me with pity and said they weren't hiring. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her I didn't need pity. I needed a job. I needed food. I needed a place to sleep that wasn't a car with cracked leather seats and a broken air conditioner. But I just left. By day 3, the $17 was gone. I'd bought a sandwich and a bottle of water and used a gas station bathroom to wash my face, and I'd paid for 3 gallons of gas just so I could drive around and feel like I still had some control. That night, I parked behind a closed church and I stared at the steeple in the dark and I thought about praying.
But I didn't know what to say.
What do you pray for when everything's already gone? Then I saw the woman. She was old, maybe 70, dragging a shopping cart full of bags across the church parking lot. She saw me sitting in my car and she stopped,
Looked right at me.
and then she walked over and tapped on my window. I rolled it down halfway. You living in there? She asked. I didn't answer. You got that look, she said. That fresh look. Like you haven't figured out the rules yet. What rules? Street rules. Parking lot rules. How to stay safe. Where to find food. How to avoid the cops. She leaned closer. How far along are you? My hand went to my belly automatically. 6 months. She nodded slowly. You got people?
No. Yeah.
That tracks. She reached into one of her bags and pulled out a granola bar. Handed it through the window. Fletcher Street. There's a community center there. They do free meals on Wednesdays and Fridays. Shelter's full most nights, but sometimes they got space. I took the granola bar. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, honey. You got a long road ahead, but you keep fighting. That baby's counting on you. She walked away, dragging her cart into the darkness, and I sat there holding that granola bar and crying again because a homeless stranger had shown me more kindness than my own husband. Day 4, I went to Fletcher Street, found the community center, got a meal, met other people who'd lost everything, and I realized this was my life now. But that night, everything changed. Because that night, I found the bag. The Gas and Go on Fletcher Street has a dumpster out back that the community center people told me about. Sometimes the workers throw out expired food that's still good. Sometimes you can find other useful things. I wasn't looking for money. I was looking for dinner. It was almost midnight. The store was closed. The streetlights were flickering. And I was 6 months pregnant, digging through garbage like an animal, trying to find something to eat. That's when I saw it. Black duffel bag, half buried under trash bags. Something about it looked wrong.
Too clean.
Too new. Like someone had just thrown it there. I pulled it out. Heavy. Really heavy. My first thought was drugs. My second thought was I should walk away. My third thought was, what if it's something I can sell? I unzipped it, and my whole world stopped. Money. More money than I'd ever seen in my life. Stacks and stacks of $100 bills, bundled with rubber bands, packed so tight the bag could barely close. I looked around. Nobody. Just me and the dumpster and the flickering streetlight and this bag full of cash. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. The baby was doing somersaults inside me like she knew something big was happening. I didn't count it. Not then. But I knew it was a lot. Enough to change everything. Enough to maybe, possibly give my daughter a life. Or enough to get me killed. I zipped the bag shut and stood there, frozen, trying to think. This wasn't mine. This money belonged to someone. Probably someone dangerous. Probably someone who was looking for it right now. But then I thought about sleeping in my car, about digging through dumpsters, about my baby being born into nothing because her father was a coward and his family was cruel. I thought about that granola bar from the homeless woman, about $17, about having no one and nothing. And I picked up the bag. That's when I heard the sirens, distant but getting closer. And I realized someone had called the cops. Maybe about the bag.
Maybe about me.
Maybe about something else entirely. But I was holding what was probably stolen money, and I was homeless and pregnant and desperate, and none of that would look good to the police. So I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. Well, I waddled ran because you can't really run when you're 6 months pregnant. But I moved as fast as I could, clutching that bag to my chest, staying in the shadows, heading away from the sirens. I made it back to my car, threw the bag in the trunk, covered it with the spare blanket I'd been using, got in the driver's seat and sat there, breathing hard, trying not to panic. The police cruiser rolled past.
Slow.
Searching. I held my breath. It kept going. But I knew this was just the beginning. Someone was looking for this money. And sooner or later, they were going to find me. I drove for 2 hours straight, no destination, just driving because staying still felt like dying. Every car behind me looked like a cop. Every person on the sidewalk looked like they knew what I'd done. What had I done? Found money? Stolen money? Was there even a difference anymore? At a rest stop outside the city, I finally opened the trunk and counted it. $5,200,000. I counted it 3 times because my brain couldn't process numbers that big. $5 million could buy a house.
Could pay for college.
Could give Hope everything I never had. $5 million could also get us both killed. I sat in that rest stop parking lot until sunrise, the baby kicking against my ribs, and I made a plan. A crazy, desperate, probably stupid plan. But it was the only one I had. First, I needed to disappear. Not forever. Just long enough to figure out where this money came from and whether anyone was actively hunting for it. Second, I needed a place to stay. Somewhere cheap. Somewhere nobody would ask questions. Third, I needed to be smart. No big purchases. No sudden lifestyle changes. Nothing that would draw attention. I used $300 from the bag. 300 out of 5 million felt almost reasonable, and I found a weekly motel on the edge of town. The kind of place with stained carpets and a clerk who didn't care about your name as long as you paid cash. How long? He asked, not looking up from his phone. A week. Maybe more. He slid me a key. Room 12. Ground floor. It smelled like cigarettes and bleach, but it had a lock and a bed and running water, and after 4 days in my car, it felt like a palace. I hid the duffel bag in the air conditioning vent, pushed it way back where nobody would think to look. Then I collapsed on the bed and slept for 14 hours straight. When I woke up, my phone had 63 missed calls, all from numbers I didn't recognize. I turned it off and threw it in the trash. If Griffin wanted to find me, he'd have to work for it. And something told me he wouldn't bother. Are you enjoying the story so far? If you are, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This story is just getting started. For 3 days, I lived like a ghost. I bought a prepaid phone. I bought cheap maternity clothes from Goodwill. I went to the free clinic and lied about my address and got my first prenatal checkup in weeks. The doctor said the baby was healthy. Strong heartbeat. Good size. Everything looked perfect. You're lucky, she said, smiling. I almost laughed. Lucky. Sure. But then she put the ultrasound wand on my belly, and I saw Hope on that grainy black and white screen, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about giving my daughter a chance. Even if I had to break every rule to do it. On day 4, I made a mistake. I went back to the gas and go. I told myself it was just to see if anyone was looking for the bag. Just to get a sense of whether I was safe. But really, I think I wanted to know whose money I'd taken. I wanted to know if I was stealing from someone who deserved it. The store looked normal. Same bored cashier. Same flickering lights. No cops. No obvious criminals lurking around. I bought a water bottle and some crackers, and I was about to leave when I saw it. A flyer taped to the door. Reward: $50,000 for information leading to the recovery of stolen property. No questions asked. Below that, a phone number. My blood turned to ice. $50,000 reward meant someone really wanted that bag back. And if they were willing to pay that much for information, what would they do to the person who actually had it? I walked out, got in my car, and I saw him, Griffin, my husband, standing across the street, talking to two men in dark suits. He was pointing at the gas and go, pointing at the dumpster, and one of the men was taking notes. I drove away before he could see me. Fast but not too fast. Calm but not too calm. Every instinct screaming at me to floor it and never look back. Griffin was looking for me. Or looking for the money. Or both. And he brought people who looked like they ate glass for breakfast. Back at the motel, I pulled the duffel bag from the vent, and I stared at it like it might explode. This money wasn't random. It wasn't luck. Somehow, some way, it was connected to Griffin's family. It had to be. The Banks family ran an investment firm, but everyone in town whispered about other things. Offshore accounts. Questionable clients. Money that moved in shadows. What if this was their money? What if I'd accidentally stolen from my own in-laws? The thought made me laugh. A bitter, broken sound. After everything they'd done to me, after throwing me out like trash, I'd somehow ended up with their money. If it was even theirs. I still didn't know for sure. I spent that night doing something I should have done days ago. Research. On my prepaid phone. Using the motel's terrible Wi-Fi, I searched for recent crimes. Robberies. Heists. Anything involving large amounts of cash. Nothing in our city. But 2 towns over, there was a story. Small article buried in the local news section. Federal investigation ongoing after alleged money laundering scheme collapses. The article didn't name names, but it mentioned an investment firm. And it mentioned $5 million that had gone missing during a raid. I read it 4 times. Then I searched for the firm's name. Banks Financial Group. My hands started shaking so bad, I dropped the phone. This was Griffin's family business. This was their money. And it wasn't just stolen. It was evidence. Federal evidence. Which meant the FBI was looking for it. And Griffin's family was looking for it. And I was stuck in the middle with a baby and a dream and a duffel bag full of someone else's crimes. I should have turned it in right then. Should have called the FBI and explained everything and hoped for mercy. But I thought about that Sunday dinner. About Willa's cruel smile. About Griffin's cowardice. About being thrown out while pregnant and alone. And I thought, they owe me. Not $5 million. I wasn't stupid. But something. Enough to get back on my feet. Enough to give hope a start. So, I made another crazy decision. I took $50,000 from the bag. Enough to rent a small apartment, buy baby supplies, get through the next few months. The rest I would turn in. Anonymously. Eventually. I told myself I was just borrowing it. Just taking what I was owed after everything they'd put me through. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was becoming the person they'd always said I was. A thief. A liar. Someone who'd do anything to survive. The question was, could I live with that? I had 2 days of peace. 2 days where I found a tiny studio apartment, paid first and last month's rent in cash, and started building a life. Then Griffin found me. The knock on my door came at 7 in the morning.
Loud.
Insistent. The kind of knock that says I know you're in there. I looked through the peephole and my heart stopped. Griffin. His mother. And a man I didn't recognize wearing an expensive suit and a cold smile. I thought about not answering. But the man knocked again and said, Mrs. Banks, we know you're home. We just want to talk. I opened the door, but kept the chain on. I'm not Mrs. Banks anymore. Your son made sure of that. Willa's face was stone. We need to have a conversation. In private. Whatever you have to say, you can say it from out there. The man in the suit stepped forward. My name is Vincent Caruso. I'm an attorney representing the Banks family. We have reason to believe you have property that belongs to them. My pulse was hammering, but I kept my face blank. I don't have anything that belongs to them. They made sure I left with nothing, remember? Cut it, Cordelia, Griffin said. His voice was different. Harder. We know you took the money. What money? Vincent pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. Security camera footage from the gas and go. Grainy and dark, but definitely me. Pulling a black duffel bag from the dumpster. That's evidence tampering, Vincent said calmly. That bag contains materials related to an ongoing federal investigation. By taking it, you've committed a federal crime. That's 20 years minimum. My legs felt weak, but I stayed standing. I don't know what you're talking about, Cordelia. Griffin's voice went soft. The voice he used to use when he wanted something. Just give it back. We'll make this all go away. The annulment. The accusations. Everything. You can keep some of it. Enough to get on your feet. We just need the bag. And there it was. The truth. They needed that money. Desperately. More than they needed to hurt me. Which meant I had leverage. Get off my property, I said. Willa's mask finally cracked. You ungrateful little. I said get out. Or I call the cops and tell them you're harassing a pregnant woman. And I tell them about the money. And I tell them where I found it. And I tell them whose company it came from. Vincent's expression didn't change, but his eyes went sharp. That would be very unwise. So would threatening me. I looked at Griffin. You made your choice. You picked them over me. Over our baby. Now live with it. I closed the door. Locked it. Put my back against it and slid down to the floor. The baby kicked hard, like she was cheering me on. They stood outside for 10 more minutes. I could hear them arguing in hushed voices. Then finally footsteps. Car doors. Driving away. I'd won the battle. But I knew the war wasn't over. That night I moved everything. The money, my few belongings, myself. I found another motel on the other side of town, and I started over. Again. And I started making a real plan. Not just survival. Strategy. It took me 3 days to find a lawyer who'd take cash and not ask questions. His name was Ray Mitchell, and his office was above a pawn shop in the old part of downtown. Let me get this straight, Ray said, leaning back in his chair. You found $5 million in a dumpster. Your ex-husband's family wants it back. It's connected to a federal investigation. And you want to know your options. That's the short version. He whistled low. Kid, you are in deep. I know. That's why I'm here. Ray spent an hour explaining my situation. The money was technically evidence. Keeping it was a crime. But the bank's family couldn't report me without admitting it was theirs, which would incriminate them in the money laundering scheme. It's a standoff, Ray said. They can't touch you legally without destroying themselves. But they can touch you other ways. What do you mean? I mean people who launder money for the kind of clients the bank's family services don't usually involve lawyers when things go wrong. They involve other people. Messier people. My blood went cold. So what do I do? Ray thought for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not a nice smile. A lawyer smile. You make a deal. But not with them. With the FBI. He explained it like this. I turn in the money. All of it. I cooperate fully. In exchange, I get immunity. And I get witness protection if I need it. And I get to testify about how Griffin's family treated me, which could help the prosecution show pattern of behavior. You'd be a hero, Ray said. Pregnant woman escapes abusive family, finds evidence of their crimes, does the right thing. The media would eat it up. I don't want to be a hero. I just want to keep my baby safe. Then this is your best shot. I thought about it all night. About keeping 50,000 and running. About turning it all in and starting clean. About what kind of mother I wanted to be. By morning, I'd made my decision. I called the FBI tip line. I told them everything. Where I found the money. Who it belonged to. What Griffin's family had done. They sent 2 agents to meet me within 3 hours. A man and a woman, both wearing suits and serious expressions. I gave them the bag. All $5,200,000. Every single bill. The female agent looked at me with something like respect. You know most people wouldn't give this back. I'm not most people. They took my statement. They offered protection. They told me I'd done the right thing. But when they left and I was alone in that motel room with nothing but a prepaid phone and maternity clothes from Goodwill, I wondered if the right thing always had to hurt this much. 3 days later, the news broke. Federal charges against Porter Banks, Willa Banks, and Griffin Banks for money laundering, tax evasion, and fraud. The investment firm collapsed overnight. Their assets were frozen. Their reputation was destroyed. And I watched it all on the motel TV, eating cheap takeout, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just peace. They couldn't hurt me anymore. Hope came into the world on a Tuesday morning in March, screaming her lungs out, all 7 pounds and 3 ounces of perfect, beautiful rage. I held her in that hospital room, paid for by victim services because apparently turning in $5 million makes you eligible for all kinds of help, and I cried harder than I'd ever cried in my life. Not sad tears. Not scared tears. Just pure, overwhelming, grateful tears. "You're going to be okay," I whispered to her. "We're both going to be okay." And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I actually believed it. The FBI's investigation led to 14 arrests. Griffin took a plea deal and testified against his parents. He got 5 years. His parents got 20 each. I didn't go to the trial.
Didn't need to.
They were already gone from my life. Already erased. The reward money, the $50,000 for returning the evidence, came through 2 months after Hope was born. It wasn't $5 million, but it was enough. Enough for a small house. Enough for Hope's future. Enough to finish my degree. Enough to start over.
For real this time.
Ray, the lawyer, helped me set everything up. A trust fund for Hope. A savings account I couldn't touch without a court order. Protection from anyone who might come looking for revenge. "You're one of the smart ones," Ray said when we signed the last papers. "Most people would have kept it.
Would have run.
Would have destroyed their lives trying to hold onto something that was never theirs." "I almost did," I admitted. "I came so close. But you didn't. That's what matters." On Hope's first birthday, I took her to the park. We sat on a bench in the sunshine, and I showed her the trees and the sky and the world that almost destroyed us but didn't. "Your mama made some mistakes," I told her, even though she was too young to understand. I was scared and desperate, and I did things I'm not proud of. But I also learned something important. She grabbed my finger with her tiny hand and smiled. "I learned that who you are isn't about what happens to you. It's about what you do when everything falls apart. And I learned that doing the right thing doesn't always feel good. But it's always worth it. Always." A year later, I graduated with my associate's degree. 2 years after that, I started my own bookkeeping business. Small clients. Honest work. Nothing glamorous. But it was mine. Built on my own terms. With clean money and a clear conscience. I never heard from Griffin again. Never wanted to. He was part of a life that didn't exist anymore. A life where I was small and scared and willing to accept crumbs. Now I was different. Stronger. Not because of the money I found, but because of the money I gave back. Hope is 4 now. She starts kindergarten next fall. She doesn't know the story of how she came into this world. Doesn't know about dumpsters or duffel bags or federal investigations. Someday I'll tell her. When she's old enough to understand. I'll tell her that life isn't fair. That people will hurt you. That you'll face impossible choices and terrible odds. But I'll also tell her what I learned in that alley behind the Gas and Go, holding a bag of money that could have changed everything. That who you are isn't defined by what you have. It's defined by what you do when you have nothing left to lose. And that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from everything you want and trust that something better is waiting on the other side. We made it.
Hope and me. We survived.
We're thriving. And that's worth more than $5 million could ever buy. Thank you so much for watching Hope's story. If this touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to make an impossible choice? What would you have done in her situation? Your stories inspire others, and I read every single comment. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next powerful story. We have so many more stories of resilience, redemption, and hope coming your way. Until next time, remember, your past doesn't define you. Your choices do.